Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Otto. It's great to have you here at Salisbury
Thank you,
University.
Eli.
Getting right into it, why are you running for re-election?
Well, 4 years ago, I joked that I was mad and I ran for office, and now I'm madder still at the direction our state and country is headed.
Now when you talk about that direction, how difficult do you think it's been to move things in which you would see as the right direction, or to move things forward, dealing with a majority Democratic state legislature and obviously Democrats in the
Well, and
governor's
it's a
office?
wide majority, and that's one of the challenges we face with it. To say that I don't believe we have moved in the right direction. Was my term a waste? No, I don't think so. We made differences in some areas, but we continue to borrow $1 billion more each year, go deeper into debt. We spend $1 billion more than we were taking in revenues. And sometimes and we've raised taxes to no end. We've raised 46 different taxes in the last 4 years in fees. We increased the cost of a birth certificate and a death certificate. We doubled both of those. So we're taxing when you're born and taxing when you're dead. And at some point in time, we have to get a grasp on our spending in this state.
So how do you make things different? You know, the governor's race, it's very likely that that'll still end up in the same administration. And even if it doesn't, to think that the legislature will turn over is
not likely.
It's not likely.
No.
So then, won't you be dealing with some of the same issues? How do you address these problems?
Well, you keep bringing them forth, and I think at some point in time, prudent heads will take over. My first session, I thought, well, by the end of the 4 years, that would have changed, but it hasn't. It hasn't, unfortunately. But I'm more concerned about our country in the last 30 days than I have been in my lifetime, with the things that are taking place overseas and the fragile situation with our economy. I get touted in Annapolis about jobs was his biggest priority, and all we've done is to chase companies that have the ability to move out of the state and lose our jobs.
So tell me, what specifically are you doing? What do you plan on doing if reelected to change that, or at least to make some headway with these issues?
Well, I was quite concerned this past year. We increased the minimum wage to $10.10, and I had more problems and concerns for our young people having opportunities, job opportunities to gain responsibility and have a work ethic than ever before, because employers can't afford to take untrained people and put in a location and responsibility. That's one of the things I fought against that, and it was staged in. So there's some relief, and then we're dealing with neighboring states right to us, Virginia and Delaware, that have different opinions and are competing for us for business opportunities.
So talk to me about some of the difficulties that you have in representing the people in Wicomico County and the surrounding areas. What do you find to be most difficult in representing them?
Well, the most difficult is that we're outnumbered. There's 9 delegates on the Eastern Shore, and there's 28 from Montgomery County. So you got a challenge right then and there. But then the perspective is a more urban environment versus a rural environment. Well, they don't have any understanding, or many of the delegates don't have any understanding of what it does to raise a crop, to raise a flock of chickens, what it goes into those types of things, of being productive. We joke often that there's not enough members of the legislature that know how to sign the front of a check. And that's the concern. It's just, most of it's ignorance, and I don't mean that unkindly. They have not had the exposure, and unfortunately we only get 30 seconds or a couple of minutes to give them 30 years of experience. But
so what do you feel like the voters and the citizens in Wicomico County and the surrounding areas in your district should know about what you have done, and then what are you planning on continuing to do to maybe decrease some of that ignorance, or to make the ways of the Eastern Shore more well known?
You build relationships with the other legislators, and certainly I've felt great. I'm one of the few farmers that are in the legislature, and many on my committee will defer to me on agricultural issues. How is that going to affect you? And not always do they heed what I suggest, but they do care enough to ask, and that's an appreciation.
If we're going back to the race a bit, what do you see as some of your experiences or some of your qualifications that make you better suited for this job than your opponent?
Well, you asked me earlier about why I ran for office, and I was sort of tongue-in-cheek about being mad. But when I saw the other candidates that were running for this vacant seat at the time 4 years ago, our delegate, Paige Elmore, had passed away in June. He was on the ballot. And at that time, the filing deadline, I think, was July the 6th or something like that. I looked at the candidates that had filed, and I remembered who represented me when I was growing up in this area. I had Lewis Riley was our state senator, farmer and poultry grower in Parsonsburg, local area, former county councilman in Wycomico. And we had Mark Pilchard from Worcester County represented us in this district. He was a pig farmer in Worcester County. And Biggie Long ran Long Brothers Cannon Factory and packed tomatoes in Somerset County. That was our representation. And then I see on the ballot that we're running sort of, pardon the pun, political activists, or that was their qualifications for it. They weren't really running any type of business. And we had others that were attorneys, and I thought there was enough lawyers in Annapolis already. So those were some of the things. Myself is the farming background. I've worked in agribusiness here for 20 years, and I'm a certified pesticide applicator and certified crop advisor, and certainly we were in the fertilizer business as well. So we bring a lot of different perspective to the table.
What do you see as some of the biggest issues facing the areas within your district, and where do they rank on your priority list? So basically, what would be some of the things that, if reelected, you'd focus on again in this next term?
Well, I'd say jobs is a big important thing, but what we've done is overregulated every industry in this state to the point that it's not worth the effort here. If we make anything, they tax it all, and so why bother to play ball in Maryland? And that's a problem. We shut down our building industry in this area with things like the septic bill that bans the septic tanks, and we've increased the cost of housing so that our citizens can't afford them if they were working. The regulatory environment is the biggest thing that needs to be reformed, and we need to be basing these regulatory programs on sound science. And serving on environmental matters, I've seen the posturing and whatnot of so-called scientists without any background, any scientific research to provide what they're proposing as regulatory responsibilities, which impact our poultry industry, our farming industry, our wastewater treatment plants, and the like.
Well, Delegate Otto, if I'm sitting at home and I'm watching this, you know, you have a lot of solutions to the problems, and you see where you want things to go, but you've talked about the underrepresentation that not only the shore sees, but maybe the conservatives and the Republicans see in the Maryland legislature. If I'm watching this, what do I think can be, or what am I looking to be done to change that? And whether it be roll back some of these regulations, or to kind of bring some more awareness or attention to some of the issues on the shore. What can be done with that? You've held the office. And you've seen the inside of it. What can be done to change that?
Well, we've done some proactive things with the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce and Delmarva Poultry Industry. We've held a chicken day in Annapolis. I mean, this year there was a proposal for a chicken tax to go to some environmental nutso project. The gentleman that sponsored that bill sits right next to me in the committee room, Shane Robinson from Montgomery County, and you could reach out to him, and he is quite an intelligent young man, and you can reason with him, and we joke around a little bit, but that is part of the other citizens and groups can take place and make an awareness to the poultry industry by having such things as that Chicken Day.
Let me ask you, you touched on the environment just a bit there. Mm-hmm. Where does the Wacomico River and cleaning that up fall on your list of priorities? Is that something that you see?
Well, I certainly find it a priority, and I think great strides have been made in it, but certainly we got an $80 million boondoggle over here at the city of Salisbury put up as our wastewater treatment plant. And we have Del Mar's comes down to Pipe 2, and those are still major parts of the problem. And I think I've always been a proponent of incentive-based positive programs for landowners and property owners to put in place for environmental things, because it's putting money where the problem is and making solutions, not creating a paperwork nightmare for somebody that accomplishes nothing but waste money.
You know, and if we take this to SU a little bit, tell me, what do you see should be the connection between the legislature and the school system, in that how are you all looking, or are you looking at ways to ensure that tuition stays affordable, okay, at schools like SU, at schools like Towson, at schools at College Park? Are you looking at ways to make it stay affordable? And then are you looking at ways to help those who are already in debt and already have student loans?
That's a challenging question, and it's no simple answers to it. I do think that there's leadway in the higher education in Maryland to trim back some. I think we have some extravagant things that have taken place. That said, I do see, and they should be cognizant of that, of the ability of students to come in and pay for their education. With students leaving with $200,000 debts and that type of thing, that's a bad start in life, and that's like buying a home before you need one to live in. And I'm pleased to support incentives that provide, say, a tuition account or something that you could build for your future, to put a savings account, like a health savings account works. Those type of incentives, but still the bill has to be paid, and it's going to be a challenge.
Finally, is there anything else you'd like to tell the students at SU, anyone else that could be watching, about yourself, your candidacy, your time in office, or what your plans are?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to address the students, and your interests are one of my concerns for the future. It's at your age, you're going into a job market that's stagnated, and other than government jobs, creating more programs that I don't know that we can afford and are sustainable. And that's my challenge, is to be here and keep a sound mind and explain those points to the other members of the legislature.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Eli. Appreciate it.